All right, so two-step inequalities. This is basically just like a two-step equation, but you're going to have the three different answers. You're going to have your solved inequality, your graph of the solved inequality, and your interval notation. Plus, you're going to have to look out for when you divide each side by a negative number, what do you have to do? You've got to flip that inequality sign. Remember, anytime you see this happening when you're dividing or multiplying each side by a negative number, you should get that big warning saying you need to flip the inequality symbol. Okay, let's look at an example. So again, these are just like party problems up until we've solved them or divide or multiply by a negative number, right? So looking here, we have a best friend and we have an acquaintance. Acquaintance will leave first, right? We do the opposite operation, so we're going to minus them out the door. Leaves me with negative 8g is greater than 8. Okay? Then we're going to divide each side by a negative 8, and you get a warning saying you need to flip that inequality symbol. It is now going to be g is less than negative 1. Okay? Then we're going to draw our graph. Okay, and when we're drawing our own graph, it doesn't need to be too advanced. Just three numbers, just kind of like this one, with like the main number like in the middle there, and then you got your number for it and your number after it. Oh, sorry. All right. So we look at our symbol. It is a regular inequality, so that means it's going to be an open circle. So open circle at negative 1. And then the alligator is eating the number, negative 1, so that means our variable is less than. So it's going to go to the left. Okay? And then when you look at that, you have to look at, to do your interval notation, you look at the least number in that interval. So if it keeps, it's not negative 2, right? It keeps going below negative 2. So the least number would be negative infinity. And the greatest number, it's going to get really, really close to negative 1. So close enough that we're going to call it negative 1, but it doesn't quite equal negative 1, right? So again, that tells us, if you look at the last video, I break it down. But basically, that'll tell us what type of parenthesis or bracket to use, right? If it doesn't quite equal that number, but gets close, it's going to be a parenthesis. Okay? And infinities, you can never actually equal, right? You can just always keep going towards infinity, but you can never equal it. So that always has a parenthesis. Okay, let's look at another example. Let's look at number 5. So number 5 here, again, party problem, best friend, acquaintance. We're going to lose the acquaintance first, so minus 6 to each side. And again, this negative over here doesn't matter. It only matters if I multiply or divide each side by a negative. So that's going to give me m over 4 is greater than or equal to negative 9. Okay. Then I've got to multiply to get rid of my best friend. So I multiply him out the door. And this side's negative, right? But again, it matters. This number is what matters. Is this negative? No. So the sign is not going to flip. Only if this number that's going to each side is negative does it flip. So it's going to stay as greater than or equal to negative 36. Okay? So again, I make my graph over here. Yeah, it's a terrible graph. You guys do better graphs than me. Do what I say, not what I do. Okay, so negative 37, negative 36, negative 35. And then what type of circle am I going to use? Look over here, I've got the line under it, meaning it's equal to, so I'm going to use a closed circle. So I got a filled in circle here. And then it's eating my variable, so that means it's going to be greater than the number. So that would mean all the values that are to the right of my circle. Okay, and then when I do my interval notation, what's the least number? And you always have to do least number first, then greatest number. Remember, least first, then greatest. Again, that's kind of how we show what the interval is. Okay, so if the least number is negative 36, right, That'd go first. And then the greatest number, oh, keeps going on forever. That's going to be infinity. Okay. Infinity always has a parenthesis. Negative 36. Does it equal? Yes. So we're going to use a bracket. And that would be my answer. And that's basically all you're doing for the 2 steps.